Question number 27 is in the name of Deputy John Brady. Minister to respond, please.
A commitment was given in Pathways to Work to develop and implement a programme of evaluations to assess the impact of the Pathways to Work initiatives. One of the first schemes selected for evaluation was JobBridge. The aim of the evaluation is to assess the effectiveness of the scheme in terms of its key objective of improving employment outcomes for unemployed job seekers. The evaluation involves a number of elements, including surveys of host organisations and participants to capture their perspectives and their experience of JobBridge. An assessment of whether or not JobBridge may be displacing paid employment in the economy, and a comparison of employment outcomes of JobBridge participants matched to non-participants, a control group. The research is currently well advanced, and I expect to receive an interim progress report towards the end of June and the final report in September. The JobBridge scheme has been an effective labour market intervention to date. Some 15,000 interns went directly into paid employment immediately after a JobBridge internship. Independent research indicates that rose to 29,000 interns, or 61% of all participants after 5 months, compared to an average of just 34% for comparable programmes in other European countries. So it's almost twice as effective. I know people who took part in JobBridge and benefited from it. But I really think JobBridge was very much a scheme for its time, and I'm planning to replace it with a more appropriate scheme. JobBridge was launched at a time of massive economic uncertainty and widespread unemployment. Companies were simply not hiring because they couldn't afford to recruit, and in many cases insisted on a minimum level of experience. But large numbers of recent graduates and people who lost their jobs in the recession couldn't get the relevant workplace experience they needed to get a first or new job. That crisis is now over, the economy is growing and employers are hiring again. The labour market has changed and new graduates are once again finding work. Unemployment has fallen below 8% for the first time since the crash. And although evidence is largely anecdotal, I am concerned at reports that some employers might be using JobBridge as an alternative to hiring new employees.
Much, Minister. The balance of the reply can be included in the official record. Deputy Brady.
Thank you, Cahirlock. Well, firstly, can I welcome the news that JobBridge is going to be scrapped, and I think that needs to be done with immediate effect and not wait until September. And I think it needs to be done barring those who are already on the scheme itself. And looking at the website there this morning, there's new, fresh positions being advertised on the website there. There's one for a position of a deli assistant. Now, in my day, a position like that, there's probably a couple of days' experience, training needed, but we're asking people, the Minister is asking people to work 40 hours a week over a 9-month period for €50 extra in their social welfare to train as a deli assistant. So would the Minister agree that the scheme has fundamentally failed and that it is displaced work? I think that is quite clear. It's depressed job creation, facilitated wage avoidance and normalised work for little or no wages. And indeed, it has put good employers at a competitive disadvantage. And I'll finish. Does the Minister agree that JobBridge has seen an exploitation of workers by some businesses?
Thank you very much, Minister, to respond.
Well, first of all, as the Deputy is aware, or at least should be aware, the scheme is entirely voluntary. Voluntary on the part of the employers and voluntary on part of the people taking part of it. Nobody was ever required to take up a JobBridge internship. When I was in the Department of Transport, we had JobBridge interns. Some of them went on to full-time jobs. And it's important, I think, to actually ask people who have taken part what they think of the scheme. And 65% of those who took part said they would recommend it to a family member or a friend. 89% said that it had given them new skills. These are the people who actually took part. And I think it's more important to listen to them than the activists who of course, have their views and are entitled to them. But it was a scheme for its time. I think it is outdated. It is my intention to either abolish it altogether or replace it with a more targeted scheme in September. But I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I do want to actually allow Indecon to finish its work so that that can help inform us on what scheme should or might replace it. And I would certainly be open to suggestions from Sinn Féin as to what you think should replace it.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Brady.
Yep. Minister, when I see businesses advertising JobBridge, looking for a position such as fully qualified architects, or indeed a more recent one, which was for the fox hunting organisation, advertising for a position for, a first whipper in, it's clear that the scheme has been abused and continues to be abused by businesses. Can I ask the Minister what will actually replace JobBridge? Because you said you would look forward to proposals from Sinn Féin, and last year Sinn Féin produced this document displacing JobBridge, and that would see internships being brought forward. And can I ask the Minister, these will be tailored internships as opposed to the one-size-fits-all, which is part of the JobBridge. So can I ask the Minister, will he look at this? Will he look at the primary legislation that we have proposed within this document to give safeguards to internships? And I have a copy of this document here for the Minister, so I gladly hand it over.
Thank you, Deputy.
For
Minister,
him
to
have a look
conclude,
at and take on board the issues in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is an independent review underway already. It was commissioned by my predecessor, Minister Burton, and I think it's important that we wait the 6 or 7 weeks to get that, so that it can be fully considered. And I'll certainly take a look at Sinn Féin's paper in relation to your proposals on what should replace it. As I said, it was a scheme that was established at a very different time. It was at a time when employers, particularly small employers, actually couldn't afford to take people on, and it was at a time when people couldn't get any work experience. And what happened is, when they went off to take up internships in order to get work experience, is they lost their job seekers benefit. And that was a real problem at that time, that people who wanted to take up work experience lost their job seekers benefit. And how else were they supposed to get work experience? It was a double jeopardy for them. And that's really why JobBridge evolved, and why it was actually welcomed initially by a lot of people who subsequently came to oppose it. But it is now out of date, and I do want to replace it, abolish it entirely or replace it. And I'm certainly open to suggestions on how it can best be replaced.